Hey guys, welcome to the video. Hello guys, welcome. Okay, so guys, this chat is about healing from trauma. So originally it's about healing from trauma and finding healing through trauma. And so I can honestly say myself, it's been a very long time, but I have got severe PTSD. And in my childhood, I did go through some very, very deep trauma. And I spent a lot of my life actually in my late childhood in and out of hospital. And it's quite a frightening place to be in, even especially for a child. And I remember the sort of thoughts going through my mind as I stepped in through the doors. And, okay, thank you. So, anyway, but I actually went through extreme trauma in my childhood, and I spent a lot of it took me a very, very long time to recover from that. And as I said, I spent most of my early life in hospital, and it was probably the most frightening place to be in as a child. And anyway, I sort of experienced some quite frightening things going through that. And it took me a very, very long time to physically and mentally recover from that. Hey, Melissa. Okay. So it took me a very, very long time to recover from my childhood trauma. And even when I did recover from it, your mind just does not forget anything like that very easily. And I'm talking about flashbacks and PTSD. And flashbacks, like PTSD flashbacks, they're not the same thing as thoughts, or they're actually on a much, much deeper level than that. But I've always been a firm believer in spirits, and ever since I could remember, I always had a strong belief in it. And one reason I actually am a medium, and I work with spirits. Hey, Melissa. Okay. Well, one reason I do work with spirits is because when I was very young, I actually saw spirits. I remember I had childhood friends. There was this this rag doll thing called Lizzie who lived inside the cupboard. And I remember I used to open the door when I was really, really small, and I used to talk to her. And probably I used to also get, when I was very young, I used to get these really horrific night terrors. And I kept thinking, literally, there's a monster in my room. And I was literally terrified of sleeping in my own room as a child. And I remember I kept seeing the monster appearing to me, and it got to the level where I was terrified of sleeping in my own bedroom, because I kept thinking there's a monster there, and I was really small. And a lot of us, when we're very small, we do probably think, we have a strong, vivid imagination, but on a much, much more deeper level than that. This one time, I was in the front living room, and it was night time. I remember, and I was playing a game. I was looking back and forth between the two windows as fast as I could, and I remember, and suddenly, this is my first memory I ever had, I actually went into a trance state. I was looking back and forth, and suddenly I went into a complete trance state. And basically, no matter what my parents did, they could not snap me out of this trance state. And I was literally so scared. The hairs on my hand were white and my skin was pale. And actually, I saw a spirit appear to me when I was in that state. It felt like I was in this state for hours, but it was actually only about 30 minutes. But it was scary because I saw this spirit that looked like something from Ghostbusters. And in the image, it was actually talking to me, and I was absolutely terrified. And my mum, I remember this part, my mum actually put a hand on my shoulder, and she said a sort of Christian religious sentence. And the thing, I literally saw the spirit in my mind's eye scream, and suddenly it flashed away, and then and then the next thing I knew, I quickly looked at the other side of the window, and I literally saw this horrific image. And I do believe that was a spirit. I do believe that was a sort of type of spirit appearing to me. So people probably would say at school you had a strong imagination, you weren't seeing it. But the reality is, I do strongly believe I saw a spirit then. And that was the moment I decided I want to actually get into maybe mediumship and try to work with spirits more. And at this other time, literally on the same place on the sofa in the front room, this other time, basically my throat closed up, and literally the nurses at the hospital didn't realise what was happening, but it felt like something was trying to suppress my throat. And anyway, I was taken to hospital, and the nurses literally said in the hospital bedroom that it's literally like the kid wants to curl up and die. He literally looks like he does not want to live. And I felt, my mum actually had a friend who was a priest called Isaac. He was an African minister, and I remember my mum actually reached out to him, and she literally said to him that she thinks there's some sort of spirit attacking my throat. And basically, the minister actually got all the other people in the congregation to pray, and basically overnight I suddenly recovered. But what I'm talking about is that is a kind of energy invasion. So I know people who actually have got, I know some people who actually have got mental illness or have been in hospital and have been through things, and I've seen a lot of them have been extremely spiritually open people. And whether it's depression, multiple personality disorder, even autism or mental health, schizophrenia, a lot of people who actually do go through things like that, they are very, very spiritually open people. They actually are very, very, and I remember being in hospital, and a lot of the people who actually experienced there did have potential to be healers, mystics, psychics, if they can just overcome some of their difficulties. And obviously there is the physical side to the illness. There is the physical aspect of the illness. But a bit like the yin-yang symbol, there's also the spiritual side to the illness as well. Both of them are equally entwined. So what affects the spiritual body has a direct impact on the physical body. So, for example, some people in hospitals there's sort of people who walk up and down or talk to themselves, like walking up and down and being restless and not being grounded into the physical body, being out of it. Basically that can be an aspect of inefficiencies in the root chakra. It can not being grounded. It can be blockages in the root chakra. And even when people actually start talking to themselves, and I've seen people in hospitals, my long stay there, who actually talk to themselves, and sometimes if your crown chakra is too open, then spirits can literally fly in through the top of your head and literally speak through you. And it's as scary as it sounds. Even sacral chakra, it can be to do with being very sensitive or emotional or being emotionally wounded. So there is definitely the physical aspect to illness as well as the spiritual. And a lot of doctors, they actually don't believe in the spiritual aspect, at least not now. They used to in ancient times, like shamans and things. But now it's sort of all physical, but there is the spiritual aspect needs tending to when recovering from extreme trauma or mental illness. And having mental illness, it can literally ripple through the mind, body, soul and spirit. It can actually send a whole ripple for all of it, and it can be devastating to go through and actually have the guts to recover from something like that. For example, the body, obviously the mind, it has a huge impact on the mind. The soul can represent the person's personality or inner, and that can affect the soul as well. It can affect the spirits. It can even affect, so it has a ripple effect on all of it. But it is possible to recover from something like that. I know I have, and it can be a very, very frightening thing. I remember when I was first in hospital when I was 14, and it was a tremendously frightening place to be in. In case there's young audiences here, I don't want to go into some things that happened to me there, but they were very deeply traumatizing. And it took a lot of guts to actually recover from something like that. And shamans do believe in something called soul loss. So I know, Melissa, you experience something like this. When your soul goes through extreme trauma, well, imagine it sort of saying that I can't handle this, I'm out of here, and the soul actually leaves the body and traverses somewhere else. So physical trauma can actually almost scare the soul away from the body, and the soul actually leaves the body. And sometimes, soul retrieval is a standard shamanic practice, and you can do a soul retrieval on your own, And it's literally going into a meditative state and journeying into the other realm or the other side, and actually finding your lost soul and taking it back with you to your body. Because sometimes your soul does return on its own, but sometimes it needs a bit of a push to actually come back fully. So soul retrieval is something I definitely recommend. So in ancient times, they probably would say soul loss was a standard sort of practice of illness and things. And also death and rebirth. Sometimes we all die, an old part of us dies and gets reborn. In shamanic practices, they often have practices of death and rebirth. And it can be, when I was in hospital, I remember when I had my death and rebirth, and it was frightening. I was actually in a mental hospital when I experienced this, and I literally saw, what I saw in my mind's eye was the spirits coming up to me, and they were literally getting these choppers, and in the vision I saw them cutting bits off me, and it sounds crazy, it sounds like stepping into a madman's head almost. But the spirits, and in the vision, the spirits got bits of my body and actually threw it all across the universe, and they actually like repaired my body in the image and gave me new arms, new legs, and I don't know what it was, but I felt different after that. I felt my personality felt almost reborn. That sounds crazy, and you probably would think that's something to do with my mind, but I do think it's something deeper than that. So it also is something called a spiritual awakening. So a spiritual awakening is a bit like a death and rebirth phase. A spiritual awakening is when you realise things, when you realise that the old things didn't really serve you, and you come out from it, and you come out from it new, repaired kind of. So you could actually find a new religion or a new faith for going for a spiritual awakening. And I'm literally sure all of us have been there. So I wanted to give some tips on recovering from illness. It took me a very, very long time to recover, but I did recover. I found ways of healing. I found ways of sort of repairing my body and like trying to heal from it. So I wanted to go into some ways of things that have helped me heal. Obviously, I would say raising your vibration is really, really important. Sometimes, and spirits in the astral can be drawn to negative energy. So, but it's not dwelling on that negative energy. It's trying to shift that negative energy. It's trying to, obviously, energy can't be, if you think something negative and you put negative energy out there, it can't be just taken away just like that, but it can be transformed, as Sarah would say. It can be transformed into something more positive. So if we all have negative thoughts, we all have anger or shit, really. Obviously, we can't just get that energy and take it away, but we can transform it into something a bit more positive or easier to work with. And self-love is a really, really important practice. So I would recommend, especially working on the heart chakra. And as I said, spirits can be drawn to negative energy, even feed off it, like negative spirits in the astral. But one thing I know is that love is the most powerful thing to work with. And it's about showing love, not just for yourself, but for others, even those who may have wronged you. So having practices of gratitude in your everyday practice, showing gratitude, and even when you feel grateful for one thing a day, even if it's somebody holding the door open for you or somebody in the cafe that smiled to you, and that's a way of bringing more good things into our lives. And there is something called the law of attraction. I'm sure all of you have heard of it. And obviously, when I first heard the law of attraction, I was scared by it. So I was thinking to myself, I got a lot of negative thoughts. I got a lot of fear. And then I was really hitting myself, sort of saying, you need to be more positive. You need to think better thoughts. They bring good things to you. So I was thinking a bit too hard and I was a bit too firm on yourself. And it's not being firm on, it's not just showing love to other people, it's showing love to yourself as well. And forgiveness is really important. I don't know if any of you have heard of the practices of Reiki. but it's one of the most powerful techniques I've found that's helped me as a person. So I do recommend taking up Reiki and doing self-healing every day, showing gratitude, love, forgiveness for yourself and others. And that starts to shift the negative patterns. And obviously, shifting the negative patterns, it does not just happen just like that overnight. You just choose to think positive thoughts and it just goes away. It's a continual practice. It's something that needs to be built on every day, and it can take a while for you to completely shift those patterns, but it is possible. And another thing that's helped me greatly is also thinking about your home environment, because also the home environment, it sounds trivial, but it can affect. Having a nice home environment can shift your mental health. It can make you more happy, more positive. And a bit like your house actually has a spirit. It sounds crazy, but not just we have spirits, but the house and the place we live in also has a kind of inner being or spirit. And it's about trying to maintain a nice home environment, trying to rid it free of dust and debris. You should see our house. And it's trying to, because also spirits can be, especially dusty areas, can have stagnated energy. But our home environment does have a direct impact on our mental health. So one of the first things I'll say, if you're thinking of sort of shifting your vibration, is try to also work on your home. Like try to make it a bit more of a loving atmosphere, like having posters up of things that actually make you feel good, and that shifts our mental health. And there's the practice of Feng Shui, which I find fascinating, and they believe in having balancing out the energies of earth, air, fire, water and spirit around the household, like having wind chimes for air and a fountain for water, like burning incense. And it's working with the home environment. I also want to say some other things that have greatly helped me on recovering, and what I would say is actually writing, and I say expressing your, even if you do feel anger or negativity or fear, and every time you do feel anger, what I would say is a bit like a dog, try not to retell yourself off for thinking a negative thought and re-dwell on that, but like a dog, like just firmly sort of just let it know, and just try and focus on just being a bit more sort of positive and not being too hard on yourself. Like don't shout at the dog, don't say you can't think negative thoughts, just sort of just pat its head or sort of hold on to its leash and just try to get it. Your mind is a bit like a dog is what I'm saying, and it's about training that dog, training that inner mindset. But I would say that doing art or writing is a great way of recovering. And I'm also talking about something called shadow work. I'm sure all of you have heard of the term shadow work. Basically, shadow work is about working with your inner shadow, and we all have darkness within us, all of us, no matter how nice we are in our to-day life. We all have some aspect of darkness within us, except there's safe ways of dealing with that darkness, and it's about expressing it in a safe way rather than really brooding on it or getting annoyed, and it's trying to express that inner darkness in a safe way that doesn't harm anyone or yourself. So doing writing, poetry, writing a book, like starting to write a book, or focusing on doing arts like I do, that's a way of self-expression, and it's a way of healing. So, and there actually is a very, very good book. I spoke about some other aspects of healing from mental illness and trauma, and I also wanted to say about a book I read a while back called Med-Free Bipolar. Was it Aspin L. Morrow? Is the person who wrote it. And Aspin from Med-Free Bipolar actually has multiple personality disorder. She was in hospital, and I was reading about some things that she's been through, and she was saying about aspects of medication and how she was dealing with the really heavy side effects of it. And she was saying about the importance of health and diet. So health and diet can have a lot more to do with recovery than we think it does. So actually starting to look after your health, and even having herbal teas instead of coffee, sometimes a day, or having a banana or an apple instead of chocolates and sweets. What we eat actually has a bigger impact on our mental health than we think it does. And she was saying in her book that she actually started taking this supplement as a type of multivitamin. That was when she changed her diet, and she went from having multiple personality syndrome, being very, very unwell, to actually recovering. So diet is really, really important. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I can't say about medication. I'm not allowed to go there as a psychic or even as a advisor. I can't tell you go against doctor's advice, but I would say it's probably better to be on a low dose of medications rather than probably nothing. But it's not all medication, and it's not all that is possible to recover. I know it is. I've been there and I've done it. It's hard. It is really, really hard, but it is possible to recover. And it's trying to just look after our health more, our diet, try to maintain our home environment, and trying to even creating a little, I don't know, purse thing. So if you get a panic attack when you go out, I don't know, you can carry a little purse thing with you, and you can keep it for emergencies when you go out, and you can even bring it with you. And if you're out and you do feel a panic attack, you can take out this little, I don't know, this purse thing, and you can keep something like a grounding stone in it, like a black tourmaline, and even some sort of things to actually distract you if you're having a panic attack. So even keeping a mini purse thing with you when you're out and about, and if you do feel something, if you do feel anxiety coming on, taking it out, and it's a way of distracting you from your troubles. So you might even think of that. You never actually know. And some of this can also be to do with past lives. So I don't know, some of you don't believe in past lives. Some of you just believe when you die is blackness, perhaps there's heaven or whatever. But I do believe that there is such a thing as sort of past lives, and sometimes we can actually also, it can be deeper than on the physical, like this lifetime. It can go several lifetimes back. So I do believe in past lives, and if you are into that, doing something like a past life regression meditation can be a way of sort of starting to discover what you're supposed to learn in this lifetime, and if there's something deeper you're supposed to learn from your illness. And I remember the first time I had depression, and I never mentioned this before, but the first time I ever felt depression come across me, for instance, was when I was on my way to school on the bus, and I remember looking out the window, and I was looking between the greenery, and I was sort of daydreaming, I was staring there, and what I actually saw in my mind's eye was a wolf in spirit form, and I didn't know what it was. I was literally daydreaming, looking out the window of the bus, and in the image I saw the wolf actually come towards me, run towards me and enter me, and I don't know what it was, I don't know what hit me, but that suddenly I just felt this depression sort of sink into me. And well, basically sometimes I do believe in something called power animals, and sometimes if the universe or power animals think we can learn something from our illness, and we can actually learn something from it, it can actually cause illnesses to happen, and they can actually cause it to happen if we can learn from it. So it sounds crazy, but that was the first time I actually remember having depression. And again, trauma can also come, yeah, Mum, definitely, trauma can also come down from our ancestral lines. So if your father had depression, or your father's father had depression, then you get depression. It can be a kind of a link sent down through generations, and even doing something like ancestral cord cutting might be something I recommend. I remember my old dad, when he was alive, he had a lot of coldness, I remember. And I remember his grandfather, he had a lot of coldness too. And it was actually when my dad's grandfather died, he felt something get transferred down to him and down to me. So absolutely, trauma and mental illness and depression can be sent down through generations, and it could be to do with generational curses or whatever. But so doing a cord cutting meditation can be a great idea, as cutting off previous generations of things handing down from the family line. Absolutely. I'm trying to think what I was going to say then. I forgot. But what I can say is I know several ways of healing from this stuff, and I wanted to share with you guys some things that have helped me. I do find, I mentioned shadow work, and doing grounding meditations every day is great for healing from this stuff. Sometimes when I'm out and about, I do have a bit of an imbalanced root chakra. So I tend to daydream, I tend to go into my own world. And what I have been doing is I have been trying to pay more attention to my root chakra and trying to be a bit more aware when I'm out and about. Because we actually are in this life to live this lifetime. And the great, whatever you believe in, the universe, God, goddess, whatever it is, the universal consciousness put you here. And it put you here for a reason. And if we're daydreaming all the time, if we're not paying attention to our lives, or we could miss something major that's happening in our lives. We could miss something because we're too busy dwelling on the inner world rather than being in touch with the outer world. So mindfulness is something I have been trying to practice. And recently I have been trying to be quite firm with myself, and I have been doing more inner meditations where I go inwards in the evenings. So in the evenings I tend to go more inwards, and when I do my spirituality, scrying, whatever, share my journeying, I tend to do that in the evenings. But when I'm actually during the daytime, that is when I trying to connect more with the physical natural world, and trying to practicing grounding and mindfulness. It's still work in progress, but I think everything has a time and a place. So I tend to set specific times to do meditations where I go inwards, and I'm trying to. And sometimes when some of us who have done astral work or visited the astral plane, or even visiting astral temples, I've heard people saying it's so beautiful, the astral plane, that a part of them does not want to come back after going there. And that's some things, even when I was first there, I thought my inner world was so beautiful. I thought the outer world is shit. I don't want to be there. I want to be inwards, try and escape from it. But it can be, even when I'm saying that, I'm half forgetting it. But the astral planes, it can seem so beautiful that it can be so tempting to stay there all the time. But the reality is we have got a life to live. We're in this physical world for a reason, and God, whatever it is that put us here for a reason. So it's important to try to live our lives as much as possible. And I wanted to also say, grounding every day, connecting with the root chakra can definitely help with this. As I said, Reiki can help, and also doing fitness. You'll be surprised how much fitness can help. But obviously our physical bodies and our spirit bodies are interlinked. And fitness is a great way of connecting with your physical body. So I do definitely recommend getting into a fitness routine, and that goes with health and looking after your well-being. Fitness, it does have a direct impact, and doing fitness is just as beneficial as doing any sort of meditation, what I found. I was even writing a book on something called Gym Magic, which actually, when I'm going into this deeper, and I might even share it with you guys sometimes. But fitness can be, and also doing things like dancing is a beautiful way of also recovering from trauma and trying to heal. There is something called chakra dancing, which is something that it's more a Hindu tradition. I actually read it in a book about shamanism when I first discovered it. And chakra dancing can be sort of dancing. It's basically dancing on your own. It could be in your bedroom. You could sort of dim the lights, and you can pretend to be the elements. You can connect to the element of air, and you can and the thing about chakra dancing is that nobody needs to see it but you. So you don't have to worry about people looking at you and laughing at you through the door. What is he doing? He's dancing around crazy like that. And you don't have to worry about that because no one else is there but you. And it can be a way of connecting with the element of fire. It'd be quite a fiery dance. Or if you can connect, just do whatever comes naturally to you on chakra dancing, put some music on, and it's a way of healing the chakras and balancing out the energy. And the thing about chakra dancing is it's not meant to be done just once and forget about it. Chakra dancing is designed to be done more than once on a regular routine. So chakra dancing is one thing that has helped me quite a bit. along with fitness, looking after your diets. And I would definitely recommend doing something like a soul retrieval ceremony if you do feel like part of yourself is lost, because it is possible to recover from that and retrieve that part of yourself. And I also wanted to say about deities to work with. And there are actually deities, obviously not all of us work with deities, all of us do work differently. It's how we work in our spiritual practices. But there are deities associated with healing, whatever deities you're thinking of working with. And even, I've mentioned some deities that have helped me recover. And the first thing that comes to my mind is Dionysius. And the Dionysius... Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, Dionysius is associated as the god of wine, but he's also associated with healing or madness, healing from madness. And in ancient times, the cult of Dionysius used to do ceremonies and they would drink wine and sort of act insociable, and they actually saw that as a form of healing. So Dionysius is a god who can help you recover or heal from illness. And his way of working is healing through religious ecstasy. Even like chakra dancing, that can be an example of connecting with Dionysius's energy. Or even, but I would say don't, if you do anything like connect to Dionysius and you do chakra dancing and things, I would say don't take any substances like alcohol or drugs. I wouldn't recommend doing anything like that, but just do it more naturally. But working with Dionysius and praying to him can help you heal. And some other deities that can help is the god Apollo, the sun god Apollo, and he's associated with both illness and healing. And even the raven in his stories actually represented disease, and he was actually said in his stories he actually made the ravens black when one of them actually didn't do what he wanted one time. So Apollo can be associated with healing. I invoked Apollo and have done healing rituals with him. And you can heal from connecting with Apollo and actually connecting with the energy of the sun. And I do associate the sun a lot with healing. And another technique is you can sort of breathe in the sun. Like if you're out and about, another way of connecting with Apollo's energy is connecting with the energy of the sun and breathing in the golden rays of the sun into your body. And you can sort of hold your breath for a minute and then breathe out anything negative that doesn't serve you. And actually breathing in the sun's energy and sort of breathing it into your body. Even that can be a form of healing, and breathing it into the central diaphragm area. So there's different ways to work with deities. There's Aphrodite, the goddess of love. And obviously, goddess Aphrodite does not just represent love or lust or whatever. It also represents love for yourself and compassion for yourself. So Aphrodite is another deity you can choose to work with if you want to bring healing. Or even you can get a seashell and you can meditate with the seashell and connect to Aphrodite's energy. And actually, while I'm here, another technique that has helped me is getting a black tourmaline crystal. And what you can do is you can send, if you do feel a lot of negativity, you can actually hold the crystal in your hand and send the negativity into the crystal. It's actually like channeling all your negativity into the black crystal. And after doing that, what I would recommend is burying the crystal underneath the ground and leaving it there for 24 hours and then digging it out again. And that sort of clears the crystal's energy of all the negativity you sent into it. But even shamans, I know people actually have got an egg and they actually hold egg in their hand and they picture sending in all negativity, fear and anger into the egg, and then they'll dispose of the egg. And even shamans, they've done it with chickens. So it's a bit gross, that part about chickens, because they literally, in some Middle Eastern countries, they have done that, and I wouldn't recommend that. But you can send negativity into a crystal or an egg, and you can bury the egg in the ground, whatever, or dispose of it. Or even get the black crystal, throw it into an open body of water. And that's a way of sort of getting rid of the negative energy. And it has helped. I've tried that one. And it has definitely helped. And also, sometimes our pain or our karma is not just on the physical level. Sometimes it can go through several, even past lives or even ancestral generations back. So working with Kronos, the god of time, or the Roman god Saturn. So Kronos is associated with the god of time. He's associated with the golden age, and I often work with Kronos when I do past life work. So if I want to work with my past lives or do a past life recognition, sometimes I do first invoke Kronos before and give an offering and ask him to help me with my past life work. Because Kronos is actually also, being god of time, he's also associated with past lives. So he can be, Kronos is another god to work with who can help you with this. And there's also the god Ares. Ares is he's quite a feared figure. He's associated with rage, bloodlust, and you can picture Ares in ancient Greece screaming in the battlefield, charging into war, slaughtering his enemies. Okay, forget about that negative aspect for a minute. Aries can be great to work with shadow work, because I spoke with shadow work as expressing your emotions in a safe way that doesn't harm anyone or yourself. And I find invoking Aries can be a way of working with shadow work or working with your inner shadow to bring healing. So it's not all negative. So you can invoke Aries for shadow work or even healing. But even if you choose to do something like, if you choose to do a workout and you want to get rid of all your emotions in a safe way, you can actually, you could invoke Aries, but I don't know if he'd be very good for that because he's he's quite a fiery energy to work with. But Aries can be worked with in shadow work. And there's even the god Loki. And I spoke so much about Greek terminology, but I wanted to say about Loki. So Loki is the trickster god in Greek mythology. He's sort of not portrayed as a man nor a woman, but rather something in between the two. And I know people have actually worked with Loki who feel like they're outcasts or feel like they're rejected by society. And they actually have found hope with connecting with Loki as a way of healing from that, healing with even people who do feel like they're having some aspects of being alone, being a loner, being an outcast and not accepted by society. Working with Loki can be great in those terms and in finding out who you are as a person. Loki can be a way of discovering that. So if you do feel working with Loki, that's great. I know I don't normally invoke Loki because he's a trickster and he can actually cause things to go wrong. But if you want, you can give offerings to Loki and see how things go with him. And the final deity I wanted to mention really quickly is the goddess Hygeia. So Hygeia is a Greek-Roman deity, and she's associated with cleansing, healing, hygiene, purification. But because she's associated with healing and also hygiene, she can also help you with raising your vibration. It's something I discovered. And sometimes when I actually have felt a lot of negative thoughts, I have invoked Hygeia and prayed to her. And of course, there are archangels that are associated with healing. There's Archangel Michael, and I often invoke Archangel Michael if I want some sort of energetic protection or if I'm feeling a lot of negativity coming on me. And another archangel is Archangel Raphael. So Archangel Raphael is associated with healing, and I have done healing meditations with connecting with Archangel Raphael's energy. So it is possible to heal no matter what you're going through. And I'm nearly finished my talk, but really quickly I wanted to say about doing psychic and magical work when you have anxiety. People actually have told me straight away that why are you doing psychic work if you have fear and anxiety? Because actually doing psychic work or even some sorts of like shamanic work, when you do have fear and anxiety, sometimes it can make it worse, but sometimes that's not always the case. It all depends on the individual. So I would say go with your own gut instinct. If you find something helpful, do it. So it all depends what you feel. But it can help doing a quick check-in before, if you are doing psychic work or shamanic work, just doing a quick check-in with how you're feeling first and just see how you're feeling in terms of your energy levels. And if you have a good feeling about it, go for it, I'd say. But if you do feel a bit more fear energy, then it might be best to just do a breathing meditation, hang back and maybe come back to it in a few days. I really hope this has helped you. So obviously sometimes our illnesses it can be deeper, go deeper than just the physical level. There is definitely a spiritual aspect to it, and it's about managing these two sides. But sometimes we're all supposed to learn things in this lifetime, and sometimes the best way we're supposed to learn it is through karma or suffering. Karma or suffering can be a teacher. It can teach us things, and there's no other ways we can learn some things throughout this life without going through shit, really. So I really hope this has helped you guys, and I might draw the chat to a close soon, but I hope this really has helped you. And if there's any questions, guys, if you have any questions about recovering, or you would like to know about anything, please feel free to put it in the description box. Thank you, guys. Otherwise, I might finish for now. But it's been really, really great chatting to you guys, and I really hope what I have said has helped you in some way. And just remember, it is possible to recover, and you're not in this alone. And whatever it is you're going through, you can see light at the end of the tunnel. You can heal from it. It's not impossible to heal from it. It does determine you do need a warrior spirit to sort of get through this. And you do need a warrior spirit to sort of recover from things like this, but it is possible. And just try to... Oh, thank you. You're welcome, Melissa. Thank you. I'm more than happy to help you. And thank you, Mum. I'm happy to help you with that. I want to say really quickly about masculine, feminine energy. Really quickly, also healing and recovering from illness is also about integrating masculine and feminine. We need a mixture of both for balance. If we have too much feminine energy, we'll be in tears all the time. We won't be able to get through the day. You'll sort of be feeling empathic or all the time. But if you have too much masculine energy, it'll be direct opposite. You could be a bit more, you can sort of be a bit more like in your face sort of thing, and a bit more brute or a bit more. And we need a mixture of both for balance. We need that love, that compassion, that divine feminine empathy for when we go about our lives, but we also need that divine masculine, that sort of that warrior persona to help us get through this. So doing energy healing to also balance out your masculine feminine energies, like doing Reiki to balance it out, or even finding a teacher or a healer. Remember, if you feel like you're not at the stage of healing yourself, I would definitely recommend finding out a healer or teacher, or finding out a shamanic teacher, or even a Reiki healer who might be able to help you if you feel like it's beyond you to heal. But just remember, it is not impossible. Healing, you can heal no matter what you're going through. You can heal, and whatever it is, you can heal from this. You can do this. I really hope this has helped you guys, and I'm really, really happy to have this talk with you. It's been quite an experience for me. Thank you for joining me during this chat, guys. I'll keep you updated. Thank you very much, guys.